Hello, today I will talk about the history of Iceland. A concise timeline. And why Iceland? Because my favorite musicians are from Iceland. Settlement era 879-30. 874. First permanent Norse settler Ingolfur Arnarsson arrives in Reykjavik, according to landmark. 879-30, mostly in Norwegian chieftains, with Celtic slaves and wives from Ireland, Scotland settled the island. Recap. So Norwegian chieftains with Celtic slaves and wives from Ireland and Scotland. Okay, 930. Alpingi founded at Pink Village, the world's oldest continuing parliament. Parliament. Icelandic Commonwealth Saga Age 930 1262. No king, no central executive power. Society run by chieftains Gudar and the Alpingi. Golden Age of Literature. Most Icelandic sagas written in the 13th century about events of 930 to 1030. The year 1000, Christianity accepted by law at Alpingi. Peaceful conversion to avoid civil war. 12th century to 13th century, Stolgun Age. Increasing violence between powerful families. Norwegian and Danish rule. 1262-1944. 1262-1264. Iceland submits to Norwegian King Haakon IV. End of the freest state. 1380. Norway and Iceland enter Kalmar Union with Denmark. 1530-1550. Lutheran Reformation imposed by Danish King Christian III. 1602-1786. Danish trade monopoly. Harsh economic control. 1783-1784. Lucky volcanic eruption. Famine. 19th century Icelandic independence movement led by John Sigurðsson. Sigurðsson. 1854 trade monopoly finally lifted. 1874 Denmark bans constitution and limited home rule. 1918 December 1st Iceland becomes sovereign state in personal union with Denmark, same king. Independent republic. World 1944 up until today. World War II, Denmark occupied by Germany. 1940, Britain occupies Iceland. US takes over. 1941. Okay. 1944, June 17, Republic of Iceland proclaimed at Þingvellir. Svein Richardson, first president. 1949, Iceland joins NATO. Controversial riots in Reykjavik. 1958, 1976, three Cold Wars with the UK over fishing limits. Iceland wins each time. 1980, Vigdis Finnbogadóttir elected world's first democratically elected female president. 1980, 1996. 2008, global financial crisis. All three major banks collapse. Pots and pans revolution forces government resignation. 2010, age of Jalapjokul eruption shuts down European airspace. 2010-2020, tourism boom pre-COVID, over 2 million visitors per year versus population of 370,000. 2021, Iceland becomes the first country to have gender balanced parliament after 2021 election. Key facts today: population 382,000 as of 2025. Capital Reykjavik, two-thirds of population in greater area. Language Icelandic, closest living language to Old Norse. Energy 100% renewable electricity, hydro, geothermal. Wow, incredible. Politics. Parliamentary Republic, member of NATO, EEA, EFTA, Schengen, but not EU member. Famous Icelanders in history. Leifur Eriksson, first European in North America. Snorri Sturluson, historian, poet, author of Prose Edda and Heimskringla. John Sigurðsson, leader of independence movement. Björk, Haldor, Laxness, Noble Literature, 1955, Sigurd Rose, Modern Cultural Icons. I agree. Iceland went from a medieval chieftain republic, 700 years of foreign rule, peaceful independence in 1944, to one of the richest, most equal, and most literate countries of Earth. I agree. If okay, let's see. Now let's look at history of Norway. I'm going to do the five. I'm going to read the five the Scandinavian countries. Um, a history, a history of Norway, a concise timeline. Viking Age, 1800 to 1050. 783. Viking ride on Lindisfarne, England, marks the start of the Viking Age. 872. Harald Fairhea wins Battle of Fort, first unification of Norway. 9th century to 11th century. Vikings settle Iceland. Greenland Pharaohs discover America. 1995 1000. Olaf Tryggvason and Olaf Haraldsson. Saint Olaf Christianized Norway by force. 1030. Saint Olaf killed at the Battle of Stiklestad. Becomes patron saint of Norway. Medieval Kingdom 1050 to 1380. 12th to 13th century. Golden Age under kings like Sverre Sigurdsson and Haakon IV. 1260s. Norway at its largest included Iceland, Greenland, Faroes, Shetland, Orkney, Hebrides. 1349, 1350. Black Death kills 50 to 60% of the population. Weekends Kingdom. Kalmar Union with Denmark 1397 1523. 1380. Norway inherits the same monarch as Denmark. Olaf IV dies. Mother Margaret I unites crowns. 1397. Kalmar Union officially formed Denmark, Norway, Sweden undergoes under one monarch. Monarch. 15th century. Norway increasingly dominated by Denmark, Bergen becomes Hanseatic trading hub. Denmark-Norway Union, 1537-1814. 1537, Reformation. Norway officially becomes Lutheran province of Denmark. 1660, absolute monarchy introduced. 17th to 18th century, Norway supplies timber, fish, iron, builds second largest merchant fleet in Europe. 1807-1814, Napoleonic Wars. Denmark, Norway sides with Napoleon. Britain blockades and bombs Copenhagen. 1814, January, Treaty of Kiel. Denmark forced to cede Norway to Sweden. Hmm. Union with Sweden, 1814 to 1905. May 17th, 1814, Norwegian constitution signed at Eidsvoll, one of the world's oldest still in force. Summer 1814, short war with Sweden. Norway keeps constitution but enters personal union under Swedish king. 1884, parliamentary system introduced. 19th century, romantic nationalism. Bjornsson Greek Ibsen. Immigration wave to America. 800,000 Norwegians. June 7, 1905, Norwegian Parliament dissolves Union peaceful independence. November 1905, Danish King Karl elected King Haakon VII. Independent Norway, 1905 as today. World War I neutral, but American fleet heavily damaged. 1930s, Labour Party rises, begins building welfare state. World War II, 1940-1945, April 9, 1940, Germany invades King Haakon and government fleet to London. Every resistance movement quickly becomes an synonym for traitor. 1945, May 8, Liberation. 1945-1970, rapid reconstruction joins NATO. 1949, rejects EU twice, 1972 and 1994. 1959 to 1969, oil discovered in North Sea. Norway becomes one of the world's richest countries. 1972, King Olaf V succeeds Haakon VII. 1991, Harald V becomes king, current monarch. 2011, July 22nd, 22nd. Terror Oslo and Utoya by right-wing extremists. Norway today, 2025, population 5.5 million, capital Oslo, system constitutional monarchy, parliamentary democracy. Economy, oil, gas, hydropower, seafood, shipping, sovereign wealth fund, 1.7 trillion. World's largest per capita. Energy, 99% renewable electricity. Hydro. That's the biggest beauty of the history of Norway. The renewable energy. Famous for a high living standard, gender equality, outdoor life, friluftsliv, Nordic model. National Day, May 17th, 1814, Constitution Day. Big celebration, children's parades everywhere. Notable Norwegians, Harald Fairhair, first king, Snorri Sturluson, saga writer, Edvard Grieg, composer, Henrik Ibsen, playwright, Fridtjof Nansen, explorer, Nobel Peace Prize 1922. Roald Amundsen first to South Pole 1911. Trygve Lie, first UN Secretary General. Gro Harlem Brundtland, mother of sustainable development. Gro Harlem Brundtland. Norway went from Viking kingdom, marginalized Danish province, to peaceful 19th century independence, to oil superpower in 1 century. Mm, beautiful. Now, history of Sweden. History of Sweden. A concise timeline. Sweden. Okay. 800 to 1050. 8th to 11th century. Swedish Vikings, Varangians, trade and raid eastward, down Russian rivers to Byzantium and Baghdad. Birka near Stockholm and Hedeby become major trading centers. 1820, first Christian missionary, Ansgar, arrives. 1000, Olaf Stockkonung, first Swedish king to be baptized. Medieval kingdom, 1050 to 1397, 12th century. Consolidation of Christian kingdom. Uppsala becomes archbishopric. 1249 to 1275. Burger jar found Stockholm. 1319. Sweden and Norway share the same child king, Magnus Eriksson. 1349, 1350. Black Death kills one third of the population. 1363, 1364. Civil War. Albrecht of Mecklenburg becomes king. Palmer Union. 1397, 1523. 1397. Queen Margaret I unites Denmark, Norway, and Sweden under one crown. Kalmar Union. 15th century. Constant rebellions against Danish dominance. 1520. Stockholm bloodbath. Danish King Christian II. Ex. Oh my god. Vasa era. Sweden becomes a great power. 1523, 1721. 1523. Gustav Vasa elected king, independence from Denmark. 1527. Reformation. Gustav seizes church property. 1611, 1632. Gustav II Adolf, military genius, Lion of the North. Gustav II, Lion of the North, turned Sweden into Baltic superpower during the 30 Years' War. 1630, 1648. Sweden controls much of Baltic coast, Swedish Empire. 1658. Treaty of Roskilde. Sweden gains Skåne, Belking, Bohuslän from Denmark, still Swedish today. 1700, 1721. Great Northern War. Charles XII. Aggressive campaigns end in disaster at Poltava. 1721. Treaty of Nystad. Sweden lost its most Baltic provinces. End of Great Power era. Age of Liberty and Gustavian period. 1718, 1909. Age of Liberty. Weak kings, strong parliament, first free press in Europe. 1772. Coup by Gustav III. Enlightened absolutism. Opera house, culture boom. 1809. Coup and new constitution. Sweden loses Finland to Russia. Hmm. Still the biggest trauma in Swedish history. Union with Norway and neutrality. 1814, 1905. 1814. Sweden forces Norway into personal union. A compensation for losing Finland. 19th century. Rapid industrialization. Immigration wave to America. 1.3 million Swedes. 1905. Peaceful dissolution of union with Norway. 20th century. The Swedish model. 1905 today. 1917, 1932. Social Democrats begin long dominance. 1930. Folkhemmet, people's home, cradle to grave welfare state invented by Per Albin Hansson. World War I, World War II. Strict neutrality. Controversial arms trade and transit of German troops. 1950, 1970. Sags Joe Biden spirit. Labor and business corporate. Sweden becomes one of the world's richest countries. 1974. New constitution. King becomes purely ceremonial. 1995. Sweden joins the European Union. Referendum 52% yes. 2000. Official end of the state church, Church of Sweden. 2009, 2022. Longest period of non-socialist government since 1930s. 21st century, 2010s and 2020s. Massive immigration. 2015 refugee crisis. Rise of Sweden Democrats. Anti-immigration party. 2022. After Russia invades Ukraine, Sweden abandons 200 years of military non-alignment. 2024, March 7, Sweden becomes 32nd NATO member. 2023, Crown Princess Victoria children start school. Line of succession clear for first Queen Regina since 1720. Sweden today, 2025, population of 10.6 million. Capital Stockholm. Monarch King Carl the 16th Gustav since 1973. Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson. Moderate Party is under right coalition. Economy high tech. Ericsson, Spotify, Volvo, IKEA. Strong welfare state. World's highest tax to GDP ratio. Famous for neutrality, NATO member, gender equality, Lago, Figa, ABBA, and Greta Thunberg. National date. June 6, since 2005, commemorates Gustav Vasa's election, 1523, and the 1809 Constitution. Sweden went from poor war-like Baltic Empire, losing Finland, building the world's most famous welfare state, to finally abandoning neutrality in 2024. Now let's move to history of Denmark. History of Denmark, a concise timeline. Viking Age 800 to 1050. 8th to 11th century. Danes dominate North Sea and Baltic States, found Dublin, Normandy, and trade routes to the east. 965. Harald Bluetooth erects the Jellystones, declares Denmark Christian, first written mention of God. 1016, 1035. Canute, the great rules of North Sea Empire, Denmark, England, Norway. Medieval Kingdom, 1052, 1397. 12th century, Valdemar the Great and Bishop Absalom built Copenhagen, 1167, as a fortified trading post. 1219, Valdemar II conquers Estonia. The Donbrook Danish flag legend says it fell from heaven. 1340, Valdemar IV Attigdad reconquers a bankrupt kingdom. I will gather the day again. 1397, Queen Margaret I creates the Kalmar Union. Denmark becomes the leading power of Scandinavia. Dominant power in Kalmar Union, 1397, 1536. 15th century. Denmark controls Sweden and Norway. Collects sound dues or toll huge wealth. 1523, Sweden breaks away under Gustav Vasa. End of Kalmar Union. Denmark-Norway dual monarchy and Reformation. 1536, Christian III wins the Count's feud. Lutheran Reformation, church lands becomes crown property. 17th century, absolute monarchy introduced. 1616, strongest in Europe. 1657-1660, wars in Sweden. Charles X Gustav almost conquers Denmark. Treaty of Roskilde. 1658 loses Skåne, Holland, Bleking, still Sweden today. 1720s peaceful era. Copenhagen becomes cultural center. 1788. Serfdom abolished earliest in Europe. 1801 and 1807. British bombard Copenhagen twice. Destroyed Danish navy to prevent Napoleon alliance. 1814 Treaty of Kiel. Denmark forced to cede Norway to Sweden. National trauma. Constitutional monarchy and loss of territory. 1814-1920. 1848, 1864. Liberal Revolution. June Constitution, 1849. One of Europe's oldest. 1864. War with Prussia, Austria. Losses Schleswig, Holstein, and 40% of territory and population. 19th century. Cooperative movement. Dairy co-ops turns Denmark into agricultural export power. Modern Denmark, 1920 today. 1915, women get the vote. 1920, North Schleswig votes to rejoin Denmark, still the current border. World War II, 1940-1945. Germany occupies Denmark. 9 April 1940. Government cooperates until 1943. Resistance grows, rescues almost all Danish Jews to Sweden. 1943. 1949, founding member of NATO. 1953, new constitution, female succession to throne introduced. 1972, Margrethe II becomes queen, longest reigning monarch in Danish history. 1973, joins EU after rejecting in 1961 and 1967 referendums. 2000, Danes vote no to the euro. 2011-2022, longest continuous period of social democratic led government since the 1930s. 2022, after Russian invasion of Ukraine, Denmark abandons 150 years of active neutrality policy. 2024, January 14th, Frederick X becomes king after Margaretha II abdicates, first voluntary abdication in 900 years. Denmark today, 2025, population approximately 5.95 million, capital Copenhagen, monarch King Frederick X, Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen, Social Democrats, economy high tech, Novo Nordisk, Marsk, Lego, Lego, wind energy, strong welfare, state highest personal income tax in the world. Mm. Famous for Higa, happiness ranking often one or two. Hmm. Bicycles, Nordic model, Greenland, and Faroe Islands autonomous territories. National Day, June 5th, Constitution Day 1849. Not a full public holiday, but widely celebrated. Denmark went from Viking Empire to largest Nordic power to catastrophic 19th century losses, inventing the modern welfare state, one of the richest, most equal, and happiest countries on earth. History of Norway. I did Iceland. I did Denmark. I did Sweden. I did Norway and Finland. Okay. History of Norway. I can stand like updated and complete. I did Norway. Uh-huh. History of Norway. Uh, I don't remember. Mm. History of Norway. Pre-Viking and Viking Age. 800 to 1050. Viking raids, trade and settlement. Norwegians settled Iceland, Faroe Islands, Shetland, Orkney, parts of Ireland and Scotland. No, I did. I already did this one. This is Sweden. I already did this one. History of Finland. AI is just a tool. I am in control. Okay, history of Finland, a concise timeline. Prehistory and early tribes, 9,000 before Christ to 1150 after Christ. 9,000 before Christ, first human settlement after Ice Age. First millennium, Finnic tribes migrate from the east, Sami in the north. 1150s, first Swedish crusade legendary. Begins Christianization of Sweden grew. Swedish rule 1250-1809. 13 and 14. Finland becomes eastern province of Sweden. Castles built. Turku Haminlina Piput. 1548. Mikael Agricola publishes first book in Finnish. BBC Kirja. Greats written in Finnish language. 17th century Finland, parts of Sweden, great power era. Suffers heavily in thirsty years. War and Great Northern War. 1808-1809. Russo-Swedish War. Russia conquers Finland. Russian Grand Duchy. 1809-1917. 1809. Alexander I promises to give Finnish laws and Lutheran religion. Finland becomes autonomous Grand Duchy. 19th century national awakening. Elias Lönnrot publishes Kalevala. 1835-1849. National epic. J.V. Snellen pushes Finnish language rights. 1860s, Finland gets own currency, marka. 1899 and 1905, and 1908, 1917, Russification campaigns, attempt to crush autonomy, massive resistance. 1906, universal suffrage of Cameral Parliament, first in Europe to give women the vote and right to stand for election. Ah, Independence and Early Republic, 1917-1944. December 6, 1917, declares independence from collapsing Russian Empire. 1918, brutal civil war, red socialists versus white conservatives, led by Mannerheim White's wing with German help. 1919, Republic established first president, K.J. Stolberg. 1930-1940, Winter War, Finland versus Soviet Union, heroic defense but loses Karelia and 11% of the territory. 1941-1944, continuation war, fights alongside Germany to regain lost land, later Lapland War. 1944-1945, drives Germans out. 1944, Moscow armistice. Finland keeps independence but pays huge reparations and seats Potsdam. Cold War neutrality and recovery, 1944-1991. 1948, YYA Treaty, friendship, cooperation, and mutual assistance with USSR Finlandization. 1952, Helsinki Olympics. Yeah, symbol of recovery. 1958, 1955, joined United Nations and Nordic Council. Woo! 1970s, 1980s, Kekkonen era. President 1956-1982. Skillful balancing between East and West. Reparations made up early 1952. Forces heavy industries, ships, machines, paper. Modern Finland today, 1991 today. 1991, Soviet collapse, economic depression, banking crisis, 20% unemployment. 1995 joins European Union. 2000, Sharjah Al first female president. Year 2002, Euro replaces America. 2012, Sauli Niistro president, re-elected 2018. 2022, April, Russia's invasion of Ukraine ends decades of military non-alignment. 2023, April 4th, Finland becomes 31st NATO member. 2024, Alexander Stubb elected president. Finland to date, 2025, population 5.6 million approximately. Capital Helsinki, languages Finnish 87%, Swedish 5%, Sami official in North. Economy high tech, Nokia, Angry Birds, Supercell, forestry, metals, clean energy. Famous for highest happiness ranking many years. Sisu Sana 3.3 million saunas. Education system heavy metal music per capita. Boom 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 boom. Santa Claus. Woo! Official hometown Rovaniemi. National Day December 6th, Independence Day, quiet candle-lit celebration. Finland went from Swedish province to Russian Grand Duchy, brutal birth or civil war, defending independence against the USSR, quiet Cold War tightrope walker, EU NATO member, and one of the most stable, prosperous, and happiest countries on earth. So that's all for Scandinavia.